Many of us who are beginning to awake within our consciousness. So within the research of things, first of all, you have to go to explain or define to any other individual this term and why. Okay.
Peace and love, family. Peace and love. Welcome to another installment of Melanated Empire. You know how we do, trying to bring you that knowledge. Despite this pandemic that's happening worldwide, we always try and keep on track, you know, as it's still the awakening going on, and all of this stuff is just sort of there like a distraction. So you know how we do on the channel, always bring about that religious and that spiritual truth for you to basically help in the awakening process. So when you know your destiny and when you know what you are basically destined to do and not to wait upon a god or a deity, you'll actually step to the plate, you know, contribute towards the progress and the betterment of humanity, and as a result take us into another level within the future, within reality, because we have the future generation, our children, that we basically need to check for, you know what I mean. So stopped at one of my famous sites. I'm sure if you have a look at one of the previous videos. First off, if this is your first time viewing this channel based upon this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let us get the numbers of subscribers up there so we know that this information is being spread across a wide platform, family. Okay, so in this discussion, not going to make it too long really, we're going to be speaking about what type of theist are you really. So we got monotheists, atheists, and pantheists, right? So what type of theist are you? Let me help you out by basically defining what a monotheist, an atheist, and a pantheist is, and probably you can decide what you are ultimately. So theist, the word theist means basically that the belief in a god, right? So theist comes from Latin and Greek theos, and theos means god. Now watch this, before I even continue, family, right? Just let the container truck just pass through. Theos means dealing with God. Theos is spelled T-H-E-O-S, right? But presently in the English language, before, well, most sentences, we start most sentences with the word the, which is T-H-E, which is also a, if you want to call it, a prefix of the theos, right? So most sentences start with the, which is T-H-E, and theos means God, right? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to explain that a bit later on in the video. So theist deals with God. Remember that, theist. So then we have monotheist. A monotheist, family, is the belief that there is but one God. This word originated roughly around the 1660s, and it was defined as, associated with the term, we get above. Okay, so when you look up the definition for monotheist, you will see attached to the term is the word above. So that would mean to be a monotheist would be that the belief in one God, but that one God, family, would have to be above. See the clause right there? That one God would have to be above, basically in heaven. So any Abrahamic religion, and when we say Abrahamic religion, we're dealing with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Also the Hebrew Israelites can also fall into that category, because it seems like they form a subcategory even in between Judaism and Christianity. So Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, even the contemporary Rastafarians, all subscribe to the monotheistic concept that there is but one God who resides above in heaven and is observant and vigilant to everything that we, the inhabitants of this earth, do. And if he, fundamental point, it's a he, only a he, if he sees it fit, there is what they call divine intervention, where he can actually step in and make changes as he sees fit. And that hasn't happened in the history of man trying to basically define who or what God is, or, you know. So a monotheist, again, believes in the existence of only one deity which resides above. Atheist, an atheist doesn't believe that there is a God. Okay? There is also what also attached to the term atheist, we get agnostic. Agnostic doesn't really believe in the existence of God. Okay, and we get agnostic theism. That is why I had to actually mention that. Agnostic theism says that if there is a God, okay, the understanding and the comprehension of this God is unknown. Okay, family? And an atheist just doesn't believe that there is any God whatsoever. And there is no proof. Because there is no proof of a God. And when they say proof, because a lot of atheists subscribe to science, right? So when they say that there is no proof of a God, family, they're basically referring to scientific empiricism. Scientific empiricism would be if it cannot be ascertained by our five senses. We have sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. If it cannot be ascertained by our five senses, that it is not real. And so since science hasn't been able to decipher God through the senses, through empiricism, to them no God exists. So that is what an atheist is. And then lastly, we have pantheists. So a pantheist basically says that if there is a God, well, most do believe that there is a God, that God is actually explained through the forces of the universe and through the forces of nature. Sounds familiar? It does, actually. It does. So since the advent of religion, we have quite a few people being monotheists, right? And through the introduction of science, okay, we have the atheists. A lot of people basically turn into atheists because to them there is no scientific proof of the existence of God. But let's just touch upon monotheism quite quickly, because religion, Western world religion, and in the East, because Islam is from the East as well, an Arab religion, subscribe to the belief that there is but one God who resides above. Be it Jehovah, be it God, be it Allah, they do believe that there is but one God who watches each and everything that we do. And religion is the cause of this. Now the thing is, we are Africans by heritage. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Aborigine and African topic. We actually have a video to upload on that after this one, right? So we are African, and I'll just put it at that, full stop. So you cannot get any African spiritual system, family, that subscribes to the belief in only one deity that resides above, which is a man, okay, and watches everything you do. You will not get that in any African spirituality. So that concept came about as a result, okay, of colonialization. They came into Africa, took our what they thought, from what they could have understand, really, they took that understanding, family, and tried to give us religion. And religion, I mean, goes back to the Latin word religare, which means to bond or to tie. So they basically tie in our minds to the concept of a deity which resides outside of us, which is separate from us. Okay? So with monotheism, there is a lot of separation going on, which is why this deity, be it in Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, always has his separate chosen set of people that he values above the rest of mankind. We can see that they are referred to as the Israelites within Christianity. They're referred to as the Jews in Judaism, and they're referred to as the Muslims. Allah chose the Muslim and he chose Muhammad to basically lead them, etc., etc. So you will get this form of separation, okay? Atheism, as I said, deals with basically saying that there is no God because lack of scientific empiricism. The thing is, the term scientific empiricism was coined by one John Locke in the 18th century. Quite recent, family, in the 18th century. So what I'm saying is, before the 18th century, what was it that the atheists used to subscribe to? And then lastly, we have pantheists that say that if there is a God, that God doesn't just reside in the sky, and that God is not an individual. That God is actually energy. This also coincides with science, but not just stopping at scientific empiricism. Let me explain. Scientific empiricism, as I said, deals with our five senses. Our five senses coincides with logical thinking. Okay? For the family who knows, we have two hemispheres of the brain. We have a left and a right brain hemisphere. Logical thinking deals solely with the left hemisphere of the brain family. And intuition, which is rationalism, deals with the right hemisphere of the brain. Right? So, us as a people, okay, when we used to subscribe to our creative ways of thinking, of understanding the creator, we dealt with both hemispheres of the brain. So we dealt both with the logical, the scientific concept, which you will see in a lot of African spiritual concepts and sciences. It deals with science, right? But we also consider the intuitive part of the brain. So it's like an objective and a subjective as well. Whereas this westernized science only makes us deal with basically the left hemisphere of the brain, only makes us deal with the logical thinking. And that is lacking and it's wanting, family. So what are we left with? We're left with being a pantheist. And a pantheist, as I said, is that this deity, which basically is energy, because God is consciousness, consciousness is energy, it's not a he or she, it's basically an it, and it resides in everything natural, right? Everything natural. In the sea, the mountains, the trees, ourselves as human beings being the highest manifestation of this life, okay? It resides within us as well. That's why we will say that God lives within. So there are within kinetic science as well, because I like to subscribe to kinetic science, because this is where most of the world's religions got the information, okay, to formulate what they're given to us. And since the spiritual concepts begin from there, and all over Africa really, I like to go to it to pronounce basically my understanding. So within kinetic science, it says there are three things we have to know, family. Three things we have to know. Excuse me. The family will know the first one, as we always say, right? Man, know thyself. Man, know thyself. This is the first thing you have to know within kinetic science. Man, know thyself. But there are two more, okay, that the family probably is not privy to. So the first one is man, know thyself. The second one is know the universe. And the third one is and you shall know God. So it is man, know thyself, know the universe, and your vicinity and your atmosphere, your surroundings, and you shall know God. So that means if you know yourself, you know the universe and where you exist, you study nature, right? You will obviously know God, because God resides within as well as without. Bike just passed there. So knowing yourself, family, God resides within, and God resides without, not without, meaning outside of you as well, which is within nature. And understanding God within and God without, you will get to know the complete understanding of God, family. That is pantheist, okay? So pantheist basically saying there is a deity, but this deity resides in everything natural, in everything nature, in the universe around you. So the only way that could be described is that God is energy. That will also take us to the first Hermetic principle, being all is the mind and all is mental. Because this universe and this world, first off, had to be created by thought. Because think of it, family. You will not do anything presently without you first thinking about it. It could be a millisecond, it could be a second, it could be 5 minutes. Some of us procrastinate quite a lot. You will have to think about doing something before you actually do it. So this is why we say that the universe, okay, that divine consciousness has to be intelligent. So everything first began with a thought. So what I'm saying is, most of us who are awakening to this level of spirituality, this African spirituality, African sciences, this concept, we are really pantheists. Okay? Pantheist, basically, we're using both sides of the brain, both hemispheres. Now, being a pantheist, this actually acknowledges that everything is connected. Family, everything is connected. When you read in the Marcus Garvey Life and Lessons, when he's talking about death, Marcus Garvey said there is no such thing as death. It's all it is basically only a transmission of energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Law of thermodynamics. It can only be transferred or changed. Right? And Marcus Garvey basically said in the book, when he dies and he is buried, yes, his soul, his spirit may go back to the divine consciousness, but his body, the God body, which is still part of who we are, part of our identity, goes under the ground. It will turn to food for the worms. The worms will turn to food for the birds. The body can still be food for the plants. And this is how we live on. So if I'm buried near a mango tree and the mango tree roots is taking the nutrients from my body to feed itself, and somebody comes and eats a mango from that mango tree, they're basically eating me. And this is how life continues and goes on, showing that we are all connected. So within the pantheist concept, which is any African spirituality, and within the pantheist concept, I would just like to mention that it is also sort of like a polytheist, meaning that there is more than one deity. You understand? But these deities are not physical to say, oh, they walk in the earth and, you know, they sit on somewhere in the heaven watching you or something like that. It's just a plurality of that divine energy, It's the undifferentiated aspect or principles of that divine consciousness. So, if you do believe that there is but one deity, you got that from religion, and that would actually make you a monotheist, be it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, or even being a contemporary Rastafarian. If you're dealing too much with science, and I'm not just speaking about just the general term of science, I'm talking about, you know, the westernized concept of science, you will not believe in the existence of a deity simply because there is no scientific evidence, no scientific empiricism dealing with the five senses. And as I explained, family, that is only logical thinking, which is the left brain hemisphere. Do not forget the right brain hemisphere. So, what kind of theist are you? Are you a monotheist? Are you an atheist? Or are you a pantheist? And if you are a pantheist, that means that you also are the God you're looking for. And having said that, family, peace and love. Peace, family. Peace. Yeah, family, just came from giving you another one of those hot videos. Fire videos, you know. Like the sun, fire like the sun. Hydrogen and helium. Yeah, going to the right there. Gonna enjoy that drive down south. You know how we do.